Even though we are only a few years into the 2020s, it's 2023 the time I'm recording this, the decade has already produced a number of fantastic games. As the years fly by and studios become more familiar with the limits of the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, the industry will test what Sony and Microsoft system can really do. In the meantime, the Nintendo Switch will enter the last stretch of its existence, and the console could go out with a bang. There is still plenty of time and gaming to be done this decade, and it could very well be that the best games of the 2020s are still multiple years away. That being said, things have gotten off to an exciting start overall. Hey there everyone, and welcome to Game Rant. My name is Jeffrey. In today's video, let's take a look at 10 of the best games of the 2020s so far. Also, these aren't in any particular order, so do keep that in mind. Cheers! Number 10, Baldur's Gate 3. As it launched into early access in 2020, Larian Studios' Baldur's Gate 3 was a known quantity long before its full debut, so the game's brilliance hardly came as a surprise. Similar to the developers' Divinity Original Sin 2, the 2023 RPG uses a turn-based battle system that demands strategic planning and holistic thinking. Complex and challenging with a degree of unpredictability due to its Dungeons & Dragons origins, Baldur's Gate 3's combat can take some getting used to if someone is not familiar with tactical RPGs, but it is well worth the effort of mastering. Larian's game has a lot more to offer than just fantastic combat. In fact, that is really just the tip of the iceberg. Baldur's Gate 3 comes with a deep customization system that not only allows players to create unique characters, but also rewards their choices with different in-game experiences. Along with a lengthy main story, the RPG is also overflowing with optional content. Number 9, Final Fantasy XVI. Over the last decade or so, Square Enix has steadily shifted Final Fantasy away from its turn-based roots and towards real-time combat. Final Fantasy XVI embraces this change wholeheartedly by minimizing RPG mechanics, including the introduction of a single playable character and the elimination of a traditional party system. Obviously, not everyone agrees with the franchise's current direction, and that is a perfectly valid reaction. However, in isolation, there's a lot to love about the 2023 game. For one, Final Fantasy XVI tells an epic and mature story that builds toward a wonderful final act. Unsurprisingly, Square Enix pulled no punches when it comes to the cinematics, with the game comparing favorably to any other title on the market. While not immediately apparent due to the first playthrough's low difficulty, the combo-driven combat system has quite a bit of depth. Number 8, Resident Evil 4 Remake. 2023 has produced two high-profile horror remakes, Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. While perhaps not surpassing their predecessors, both projects live up to their legacies, which is no easy feat. Out of these two releases, Resident Evil 4 just about edges out Dead Space, although being big sci-fi fans, they'll probably likely prefer Dead Space instead, but either way you can't go wrong. Capcom's remake finds Leon, once again, traversing a creepy European village and castle in search of Ashley Graham, the US president's daughter. Familiar, but still fresh, this trip offers way more than just a nostalgic blast with modern visuals. RE4 tweaks the campaign in both obvious and still subtle ways, crafting a remake that can comfortably exist alongside the original version. Number 7, Hogwarts Legacy. Even though Harry Potter is certainly no stranger to video games, for the longest time the franchise seemed incapable of producing a license-defining project. At least that was the case until the arrival of Hogwarts Legacy, an entry that wisely opted to focus on the novel's wider universe rather than just the main story. Set toward the end of the 1800s, the game follows a student who enrolls at the eponymous magical school. Naturally, this process involves joining a house, attending classes, learning an expansive assortment of spells, and exploring the school grounds along with other famous locations from the source material. Hogwarts Legacy gets a lot of things right, including a satisfying combat system, detailed, nuanced environments, and lively NPCs. That said, the game could certainly be improved upon in certain areas, which will hopefully be addressed if a sequel comes to fruition. Also, as a quick aside, Hogwarts Legacy is my personal favorite pick from this entire list, and is easily one of my very favorite games of all time. Seriously, it's that darn good, and you need to check it out, please and thank you. Number 6, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild was one of the best games of the 2010s, and the sequel managed to repeat this feat for the follow-up decade. Tears of the Kingdom builds heavily on its predecessor's impeccable foundation, crafting an adventure that successfully retains Breath of the Wild's many positives while introducing a few welcome twists. An underground investigation leaves Zelda missing and Hyrule in chaos, prompting Link to go on another long and epic journey filled with discovery, action, and plenty of creative crafting. Even if the minute-by-minute routine is very similar to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom's new additions and mechanics result in a rather different overall experience. This time around, Link earns the ability to fuse items together, and this concept plays a part in nearly every facade and facet of the game. Number 5. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It took a while, but the Pink Puff finally has a proper 3D adventure, and it was well worth the wait. Kirby and the Forgotten Land translates the franchise's standard template into a wider landscape, providing all the copy abilities and charm synonymous with this pretty consistent license. Although not without its flaws, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is beautiful and fun, the latter of which is arguably the most important thing a game can be. Yes, fun. Hopefully the series continues down this route, as this is a stellar first attempt at a full-scale 3D campaign. Number 4. Elden Ring. From Software's masterpiece pushes the Souls formula to the next level. Elden Ring drops players in the Lands Between, a massive open world divided into 6 regions filled with lore, items, enemies, bosses, and tons and oodles of secrets. Unlike Sekiro, Elden Ring is very much an RPG that permits players to approach encounters in a style that matches their preferences, be it melee combat, magic, or even stealth. Character building is an integral part of the Elden Ring experience, and the game's commitment to player freedom greatly enhances its replayability and flexibility. Elden Ring is a no-brainer for any fan of From Software's previous releases. For those who tend to be put off by the studio's penchant for difficult games, the 2022 title is slightly more accessible while still offering a significant challenge. Number 3. Psychonauts 2. Fans had to wait a long time for a sequel to 2005's Psychonauts, but few will argue that Double Fine failed to meet expectations. Raz is welcomed into the Psychonauts as an intern, a role that gives him free access to explore Motherlobe, the sequel's impressive hub area. With the identity of the mastermind behind Truman's abduction still unknown, Raz sets out to piece together the Psychonauts' history. Psychonauts 2 is a rare example of a platformer with a prominent and effective storyline. The gameplay is not groundbreaking, but Raz's psi powers allow for some creative freedom on how areas can be explored and approached, basically just overall. The levels themselves are expansive, they're creative, and they're just visually mind-blowing. It's a lot of fun. Number 2. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Although Demon's Souls and Returnal came close, Insomniac's Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was arguably the first PS5 game to truly come across as a next-generation project. Gorgeously animated and making good use of the DualSense controller's features, Rift Apart is a blockbuster of an action platformer that delivers thrilling gunplay, precise movement, and lovable characters. Fans of Sony's long-running series will get a kick out of this new entry, while those entering the Ratchet & Clank universe through Rift Apart might feel tempted to go back and even play a whole bunch of the previous games. Number 1. It Takes Two. Specifically designed and crafted with co-op in mind, It Takes Two is an ambitious platforming adventure game that constantly shakes things up throughout its 10+ hour campaign. Taking control of 2 parents who are trapped in dolls, players have to guide Cody and May through a wild journey that seeks to test and heal their fractured marriage. It Takes Two's story is satisfying on an emotional level, while the gameplay is precise and evolves throughout the campaign as new abilities are unlocked in each chapter. Seriously, there's always something new to do in this game. At the moment, It Takes Two is the best 2020s co-op game and easily one of the very best games of the 2020s so far. Definitely go check this one out. And there we have it, 10 of the best games from the 2020s that you should play right away. Thank you so much for watching this video from Game Rant. Have a truly wonderful and happy day. See you in the next video. Bye bye.